Hello everyone, or should I say good evening. I hope you're all doing well, and welcome back to a bit of a different video. It is of course spooky season, which is one of my favorite times of year, and I wanted to do a video that was a little more festive themed, so I did think about doing some like spooky Halloween-y type art, but at some point I just got kind of curious and wondered if there were actually any haunted paintings out there, which honestly looking at it now seems like a pretty stupid question. I think there's like a haunted anything at this point. Somebody's probably got a haunted Tamagotchi somewhere. So I started looking into haunted paintings, found out that there were a crazy amount of them, and today I thought I would talk about some of the most haunted ones and some of the most fascinating stories that I found out about while working on some artwork. I hope you enjoy the spooky art history lesson. A bit of a disclaimer to start off. This is of course all information that I found online and compiled into this video. We are talking about haunted pieces of art, so if spooky stuff isn't really your thing, then feel free to click off of this video. As far as the content, there's nothing explicitly graphic mentioned, it's mostly just recounts of paranormal happenings. Now that that's out of the way, let's get into the stories of these haunted paintings. The story of the first painting that I wanted to talk about actually starts off spooky before the piece was even finished. Artist Svetlana Tilets sat down to paint one day when out of nowhere she had a strange sensation come over her. She later described it as feeling like a hand was guiding her. The result, after a mere 5 hours of this inexplicable sensation, was the painting that would become known as the Rain Woman. After completion, the painting was purchased by a businesswoman who, after 2 weeks of it hanging on her bedroom wall, called the artist begging her to take the painting back. She claimed that she couldn't sleep because of the painting and even felt as if there was a presence around her at all times in her apartment. And Svetlana did take the art back. That is until a second person decided to purchase it. The second buyer was a young man, and he also couldn't stand it. He claimed he kept having horrible dreams, and even said he saw the shadow of a woman walking around his home. He was so terrified of the piece that he didn't even want a refund, he just wanted to get rid of the painting. And so once again, Svetlana was in possession of this painting. The third person interested in the painting was a little different than the other two. At this point, Svetlana must have been giving people a disclaimer about the piece for anyone interested in buying it, because this guy had stated he was completely skeptical and didn't believe any of the rumors from the other two buyers, and would be absolutely fine with purchasing it. That sentiment, however, didn't last long, and he promptly returned the painting after claiming he started seeing the woman in the painting's white eyes everywhere, and also stated he kept experiencing intense headaches any time he was in the same room as it. It's unclear how many times this painting was bought and returned, or even where the painting is now. It seems likely to be back with the original artist, who seems completely unfazed by the finished piece, not believing it's evil or cursed in the slightest. There are some people that believe that a spirit took control over Svetlana's body when she was drawing it, possibly producing the art as a way for something to be freed back into the world. Next, we're going to be talking about the Curse of the Crying Boy. The Crying Boy by Italian painter Giovanni Bergolin is a portrait painting depicting a crying young boy. Actually, there's quite a bit of mystery surrounding the real artist, as no information could ever be found about an artist named Giovanni Bergolin. It's believed to have been a pen name, although the artist's true identity still seems to be up for debate. A lot of this story actually revolves around the fact that this painting became a popular mass-produced print that was widely distributed in the 1950s. In fact, it's an entire painting series of over 60 works, all of which are portraits depicting crying young boys and girls. What can I say? Apparently it was trendy to display crying children on your walls in the 50s. But the unusual stuff surrounding this painting didn't actually start happening until the 80s. In September of 1985, a British newspaper reported that an Essex firefighter claimed that completely undamaged copies of the painting kept on being found amongst the ruins of burned houses. One of these fires was the home of Ron and Mary Hall, who lost nearly everything to the fire. There was only one item that was salvageable, a painting of a crying boy that appeared to not have even been damaged or blackened by smoke. Another of these mysterious fires was that of Jane McCutcheon's home. She had one of the crying boy prints displayed in her living room. One day she was cleaning her kitchen when she realized that her drapes, blinds, and curtains were suddenly on fire. Thankfully, her family escaped unharmed, but her home was destroyed in the blaze, except for, you guessed it, the painting of the crying boy. She even reported later that she overheard one of the firefighters that had reported to the scene say, "Oh no, not another," when coming across the painting. It's not entirely clear exactly how many of these fires happened across the UK. Obviously enough for firefighters to start taking notice of the strange discovery amongst the ashes of various homes. All of the fires were also reported to have started spontaneously. It actually got to the point where the belief in the painting's curse was so widespread that mass bonfires of the paintings were organized. This is where I have to burst everyone's bubble a bit though. A British writer named Steve Punt decided to start investigating the claims of the so-called curse for a BBC radio program. They discovered that the prints had been treated with a varnish containing fire retardant, and that the strings holding up the paintings would be the first to deteriorate in fire, causing the paintings in most cases to land face down and therefore become protected from serious damage. So there is at least a bit of a scientific explanation for why these paintings were always seemingly completely untouched by the destruction around them, although there is still no explanation for most of the fires. It obviously could be a coincidence. These paintings were popular and therefore could be found in a lot of homes, some of which just happened to burn down. Although in that case, the true horror is that these paintings of crying children were so popular to begin with. There were later reports that the child depicted in the painting was that of Don Benillo, who later received the nickname Diablo after several fires, including one in which his parents died, were linked back to him. It was said that wherever the boy went, fire followed, to the point that he was actually killed in a fire as well, an explosion caused by a car accident. An investigative journalist named David Clark, who also decided to look into the curse, found little evidence supporting the identification of the child in the portrait as that of Don Benillo. There's not a ton of information about this next one, but I found the story surrounding it extremely interesting, and that is of the portrait of Bernardo de Galvez. Bernardo de Galvez was a Spanish military officer in the 1700s, serving as a colonel governor of Spanish Louisiana and Cuba, and then as viceroy of New Spain. In 1910, the Galvez Hotel opened in Texas, where they decided to hang up a portrait of the man their hotel was named after. The portrait hung in the hallway, and not too long after, guests started to complain about the painting, claiming that the eyes of the portrait followed them as they walked past. Not the most uncommon report. In fact, people claim to experience this phenomenon a lot with portraits, including all of the non-haunted ones. But the reports didn't stop there. Others reported feeling extremely cold or uneasy around the painting. There were also many instances of blurry photos when trying to photograph the portrait. In fact, it's said that you have to ask the officer's permission to take a photo first, or it comes out blurred. Another historical portrait with some strange phenomena surrounding it is that of Marie Laveau. Now, I'm sure there are multiple portraits out there of Marie Laveau, seeing as she's such a prominent historical figure, but in particular there is a painting of Marie on display at the New Orleans Historic Voodoo Museum. There are rumors that those that view the painting will be haunted by Marie Laveau. The fear surrounding this painting is so strong, in fact, that tour guides working at the museum refuse to look at it. If you want to see the painting, you have to do so on your own. There have also been reports of pictures taken of the painting not developing properly and coming out blurry. Next, we have one of the very few paintings I came across during my research that isn't a portrait. It's an acrylic painting titled Soul Bowl. Overall, it's a pretty simple piece in concept. The main image is that of a brown bowl on a textured reddish background. Although as a bit of a bonus, the painting sides have the words "The shape of my soul is a bowl" written on them. Admittedly a little creepy. There doesn't appear to be a known artist attached to the piece, as the first person to claim ownership of the painting apparently found it in an antique shop in the North Island of New Zealand. This original owner has stated that they don't believe that the painting is cursed, but they do admit that something is definitely a little strange with it. After hanging the painting up on a wall, it would continuously fall off on its own. Later, the owner claimed to have witnessed the painting cast a shadow in the shape of a person. On this particular night, the owner was in their driveway when they witnessed the shadow of a figure being cast onto the ground from a room above, the same room where the painting was hung, and no one else was currently in. The owner even said that they went to investigate and found that the only way they could achieve the same sort of shadow on the driveway was when they were standing in the room at the window looking down. The owner promptly decided to sell the painting after that, claiming that it was just too creepy for them. They had a sense of humor about it at least. The online listing for the painting included the description of "comes with its own shadow person." The painting ended up being auctioned off for 150 Australian dollars and hasn't been heard from since. And last but not least, the piece considered to be America's most haunted painting. Created by an American artist named William Stoneham in 1972, The Hands Resist Him, aka the eBay haunted painting. The Hands Resist Him was originally created as a commission and debuted at the Feingarten Galleries in Beverly Hills, California. The painting depicts a young boy standing beside a large female doll, which honestly is pretty creepy itself. There's also a glass door behind the two, where numerous hands can be seen almost floating in the darkness. The painting is apparently based on a childhood photograph of the artist, and the title, The Hands Resist Him, actually comes from a poem that his wife wrote about his childhood. Now, this painting is admittedly a little creepy or unsettling on its own, but what makes this the most haunted painting in America? After the painting was displayed at the gallery owned by Charles Feingarten, it garnered quite a lot of attention and press, especially from one art critic in particular named Henry Seldes. This press probably had something to do with it coming to the attention of actor John Marley, who decided to purchase the painting. Within 1 year of coming into contact with the painting, all 3 of those men died. Now, that obviously could be a pretty crazy coincidence, but this isn't where the story ends about this painting. It's not entirely clear what happened to the painting after the 3 deaths, but in 2000, a California couple came across the painting discarded behind a brewery that had been turned into a gallery. Which, I mean, that should have been a red flag right there. You've got a perfectly good art gallery right behind you, and then this random painting is just abandoned there? Suspicious. After briefly owning the painting, the couple decided to list it on eBay. Now, this eBay listing is where things start to get a little wild again. The listing included a long description that, amongst other things, it claimed that the boy had occasionally exited the painting in the night. The listing also stated that they only intended to sell the painting to people interested in the paranormal, and then a lengthy disclaimer stating that if anything weird started happening to that new owner, you couldn't sue them. The eBay listing also included 2 photos that were claimed to have been taken with motion-triggered cameras that the couple had decided to set up after some of the strange stuff started happening. In particular, the seller's 4-year-old daughter reportedly said that the boy and doll in the painting were fighting and coming into her room at night. These photos captured by the motion-triggered camera seem to show the figures in the painting, especially the doll, moving or transforming. This, of course, intrigued the internet to no end, becoming a trending topic on websites like Reddit. The listing on eBay ended up being viewed over 30,000 times, which nowadays would not be seen as very many, but in 2000, that was probably considered quite viral. Many of the viewers of this eBay listing reported feeling ill or even hearing voices when looking at the painting. Some even said that when they tried to print the image of the painting, their printers would malfunction. The painting ended up being sold on eBay for just over $1,000 to the Perception Gallery in Grand Rapids, Michigan. The gallery actually decided to contact the original artist to, I guess, explain the crazy situation involving his art. At the time, Bill Stoneham apparently had no idea any of this was going down. Like, can you imagine being contacted almost 30 years later about one of your paintings and finding out that half of the internet is convinced it's haunted? The Perception Gallery actually still owns the painting, but it's only been displayed a total of 6 times, with gallery visitors claiming that the painting had made them ill, black out, and even that they had a mind control experience. All of this hasn't fazed the original artist though, as he actually ended up creating more paintings to turn The Hands Resist Him into an entire painting series. He actually just completed the series this year with What Remains. So what do you think? Is this painting actually haunted, or is it more of an internet legend that got a bit out of hand? Either way, good on Bill Stoneham for rolling with it and hopefully making bank on such a crazy situation. And those are all of the paintings that I'm going to be talking about today. Honestly, there were so many other ones that I found fascinating, but I just did not have time to get to them in this video. But I would love to know any of your thoughts about the paintings that I talked about, or if you have a particular favorite haunted painting or one that you find particularly fascinating. I would love to know about that in the comments, because I would absolutely love to find out more, because haunted paintings might be a little bit of a new obsession of mine. But that is everything, so thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.